What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. The podcast being the 3 C's with Ginge and the 3 C's being coffee and content creation. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Josh, my husband.
Heyo.
And today we are going to be giving some advice on branding, but more so building the brand for your content creation and that sort of thing.
Yeah, this is just going to be some general advice about your brand. If you've already started one or you're in the process of building one. We're working on building a much longer podcast. It might be like a several part series on building your brand if you're at basically the ground floor, you're just starting out, or even if you already have one. And but this is just going to be just a basic podcast and just on some advice of things that have worked for us and things you can do probably wherever you're at right now to kind of adjust and grow and figure all that stuff out.
Yeah. Branding is probably the most important part of your business, no matter what your business is. There always will be a brand of some sort, whether that is simply just a logo and that's all you keep it at, or a whole entire brand as a whole. And so it definitely would kind of, what we want to help you with is just sort of how to get there, what to do with it, how to maybe start getting that sort of stuff and kind of, go from there. We're going to just touch on some things like Josh said. We're going to do this in some kind of, we don't know how many, but it's definitely going to be a bit of a series, which is exciting because one thing I pride myself on is my brand. It's something I've worked hard on. It's something I'm continuing to work on. And if I can give advice on it, I most certainly will. And so I do hope that you at least take something kind of helpful away from this episode.
So one thing we talk about a lot, especially in the branding world, and branding, you can get a lot of advice from. You can, just Google it. You can YouTube it. Everyone has their own sets of advice and stuff like that. We, for Scaredy Ginge as a brand, we didn't follow any sort of set rules. In our experience, there's two different type of branding. There's a brand you've created, like a character you've created, or some sort of icon that you might have kind of created. Then there's one that's a little bit more authentic, and that's not to say that they can't be a mix of the two, but they're your two basic paths that we've seen most people go for a brand, especially when it comes to content creation. Again, we're talking about just in the content creation realm. We're not talking about like a corporate brand or anything like that.
Yeah.
Both have their place. The Scaredy Ginge brand is much more about authenticity than it is creating a brand. One of the biggest problems with trying to create a brand or creating a character, one that you're not creating like it's something you want to do, but when you try to build it all ahead of time, is whatever character you create, you now have to be at all times.
Yep.
Perfect example of this, as most people know, the name is someone like Dr. Disrespect, right? So I'm not talking bad or good or anything like that. Just that is a character that he has created. So one of the downsides of that is no matter where he goes, what he does, if he's at an event or if he's streaming, whether he feels good or he's not feeling good, it doesn't matter. He always has to play that character. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe that character is a little more authentic to who he is behind the scenes. I don't know. I don't know the man. I'm just simply saying that is a character he's built, and now that's obviously very popular, and that's a great way to grow and stuff like that. But again, you now have to be that person all the time. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you stick to a much more just authentic route and just let things grow a little bit more naturally and just try to discover your brand and character when it comes to content creation, it doesn't matter really what you do because it'll always be part of just naturally who you are. So if you go to a con or an event, or it doesn't matter if you're feeling good or not feeling good on the stream, it is who you are, and people get to know you behind the scenes a little bit more in person than if you had built some sort of side character. So that's just one thing that's worked really a lot for us.
Yeah, and if you are somebody who hangs around a lot with my community, one thing that I like is just to be honest with you guys. I thoroughly believe that if I'm going to miss a stream, I let you guys know exactly why. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. If I don't feel like streaming, I'll simply say, hey, I just don't feel up to streaming, or, whatever it is, because I personally just believe in being just there with you guys. I want you guys to experience everything that I'm experiencing, and we all get that. And I love that about, what we've built and everything. And, when I first started, I didn't really know who I was when it came to streaming. I knew that I was a mother, I'm a wife, I'm good at some things, but there wasn't really any aspect that I really wanted to kind of hone in on, and as I've come along now, it's, my brand is simply, I want to help support everybody in their journey. I want to make everybody feel comfortable with us, and I want people to know that no matter what, they're accepted with us. I'm there to help, I'm there to chat, I'm there to do whatever. Am I going to have bad days? Yes, because everybody has their bad days, and that's okay. I think you lie to yourself and you start kind of creating a facade when you start to say, well, I'm always happy, I'm always positive, because no human being is truly happy and positive 24/7. You have to allow yourself to be a human being, And so when we say somebody like Dr. Disrespect, we're not saying that his branding is bad, because it's not. It obviously has worked very, very well for him. But you also have to understand that when you brand yourself that way, you have to stay like that, because the second you get out of character, now you have people saying, well, you're a fake, you're a fraud, oh, the things that you're doing and saying aren't real. But that's because you're not letting people see the person. You're not letting people see, or you're not letting them see kind of the personable person that you can be. Everybody has faults and everything like that. And I'm a huge believer, if you let people see that, it's a lot easier for them to kind of come and be with you as a human being, and not just something that's fun to be around when they need, whatever. So.
Right. I mean, it's kind of when you have a character that you've tried to build for a brand before, maybe you've launched your brand, or as you're building your brand. It's like an actor on TV, right? We know them as whoever they are as an actor, not necessarily whatever their real name is and stuff like that. So, that's one of the toughest things. While it can be widely popular and you can see some huge growth with it, we could have taken the Scaredy Ginge brand and gone something like she only played scary games and she just got scared with everything, which, I mean, is something she does to begin with. But if that was the only thing she did, maybe she would be much bigger than she is. But at the same time, if she didn't like doing that anymore, she wouldn't be able to pivot. She wouldn't necessarily be able to adjust. Or if she did, now you're stepping out of character and all that kind of stuff. So it can be very, very difficult. And the backlash from that can be tough. Again, I'm not saying that this is the wrong route to go. Whatever works best for you. And I'm also not saying there can't be any crossover, because if you do a more authentic brand, that's not to say that when Scaredy Ginge does scary games that she can't put on the persona of something like that, where it just really gets scared, because, I mean, that does happen.
It's not a persona, it's a real thing.
Right. And that's also, I'm not saying lying to your audience or anything like that. It's nothing like that. I'm simply saying that, sometimes you have to step into character and all that kind of stuff. So just something to think about as you are figuring out your brand. There's only so much logically about your brand you can figure out ahead of time.
Yep.
You can figure out your core values, something I talk about all the time. You can figure out the kind of people you want in your community, all that stuff. You can figure out well ahead of time. That's no problem. But you can't figure out your reactions to things ahead of time, or you lose a lot of that authenticity and stuff like that. So
and that's the thing too. You may know who you want to be as a streamer, but I don't think you will truly know who you want to be as a streamer branding wise until you've been doing it for a while. Unless, again, it is just something that from the get-go, like, I want to be that super hype, like, yada yada person, right? But a lot of times you'll see the death of a streamer or a content creator comes when there is this huge pivot from being one way, and then all of a sudden they pivot into something else. Now, that's not to say it can't be done, But if you just kind of go through and you look at things, you can see where these streamers have tried, maybe they're a family friendly content creator, and then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, I want to be a not safe for work content creator. It can work for a little bit, but then it starts to die down, right? That hype just starts to die down, or vice versa. And that's not to say that you shouldn't try things out, because again, as you're trying to find yourself and where you want to be and how you want to be with your community and everything, you should do things like that. But I think once you have yourself really set as who you want to be, I'm not saying you have to stick with it, but when you want to make the changes, they have to be very tactful, and there has to be a reason for those changes that your community will accept. Because if you're just doing it because you feel like it and that's that, it's probably not going to be received well.
A big reason why we harp a lot on communication and talking to your community. They're going to give you that direct feedback anyways. Communities, for the most part, don't like surprises. No. People don't like change. They don't like surprises. So if you talk to them, you can help them out a lot. But a big part of your brand, especially if you're trying to figure it out, is testing out new things and trying new things, and understanding that anytime you try something new, I'm not talking about a giant pivot in your personality, but anytime you try something new, there's a good chance that you could lose people. But you can't be afraid of that, because maybe you lose a couple, but then gain a couple more, So it's, at the end of the day, you can't be afraid to try new things, because that is an important part of your brand as you're figuring it out.
You just have to be realistic when trying it that maybe it won't work out.
Right. And again, people will give you that feedback. And again, especially if you talk to your community and tell them that maybe you're trying this ahead of time, you may end up keeping those people that you were going to lose potentially ahead of time. One of the staples in our community, his name is Momo. He's been around since the beginning. Scaredy Ginge streams mostly RuneScape. He doesn't like RuneScape.
Yeah. Like he's played it and stuff like that, but it's just not his thing.
It's just not his thing, which is totally fine. But again, we keep that communication going and open and stuff like that. And he knew that when we pivoted to being a RuneScape only streamer and content creator for the most part for right now, since we talked to him ahead of time, knew that he didn't just jump ship on us, which is great because we left that communication open. But that was a perfect example of pivoting. If we go back, Scaredy Ginge really started as a Skyrim streamer, which is great. But the pivot over to RuneScape is where we saw a lot of the growth and stuff like that. We lost some OGs from Skyrim, some people that were around from the very start, and of course that sucks, especially in the beginning too, because you're like, oh man, I'm not going to make it, or people are going to be mad at me, or whatever it might be. So but it's important to if we didn't pivot, I don't know necessarily where things would be right now, and you're never going to know the other side of things either. If you're going to try something new, try it. Don't worry about what's not or could happen. Just try it.
And that's really the beauty about getting into content creation, is you're not more than likely going to take off overnight. That is so rare, especially nowadays, because there are so many people. Try things. If you want to try something, if you want to do it, especially if you have a couple people who are willing to give you true feedback on things, do it. Because what are you going to lose? As long as you're staying within your core values and you're staying within terms of service of things and you're being true to yourself, there's nothing wrong with it. Because what would suck is if you're 2, 3, 4 years down the road and you've now built this entire community around this persona. Sorry, Josh was just petting the cat and he just went so limp in my lap, and it was cute.
The cat just flopped over.
But you get to this point where if you change, people are probably not going to like it, because they've grown to love and appreciate and want to be around this specific person. And now you're changing that all up on them, And that's, at the end of the day, that's really all we're saying. It comes back to that consistency thing. It comes back to kind of learning who you are, where you fit in, what your niche is, and all that kind of stuff, There is literally, with content creation, unlimited potential in every aspect that you can even imagine. And I think really limiting yourself in certain ways is not great, which is why I'm not a huge fan of creating a specific brand, of being a specific person, if that makes sense, because I feel, to me, that's very constricting in the ways that you can create content and be a person, But at the same time, if that is what you want to do and it works well for you, then that's fine. Just me personally, brand wise, that's not something I would do.
I'm glad you said that, because that brings up kind of realistically something we knew from the start. We just kind of knew inherently, just from my background of things that I've done on business research and just what I do and all that kind of stuff. We knew that we didn't know what we were going to stream. No, we knew that, and that was very important. So we knew from the start that it wasn't about getting people to fall in love with the content as much as it was to getting people to fall in love with you.
Because that's
as
the
a
big
content
thing.
creator.
That's the big thing that we get. So many people in my streams say, I'm not here for the content. I'm here because I love listening to you and hanging out with you while I'm doing whatever I'm doing.
Right. I mean, Scared to Ginge is the content, is really realistically what it is. So as far as building the authentic brand, one of the pro sides to it is the fact that anytime she wants to stream something else, do some sort of different content and stuff like that, we get real feedback, which is great. People will give us their real opinion about things. And two, there's still going to be support because they're still there for you, and people like to see you try new things. As whereas if you, again, just built a very specific persona, that might have just been more difficult. Again, I'm not saying one is better than the other. We're just talking about the success we've had with doing that.
Yeah, because I can't speak on, realistically building a specific persona for something because I haven't done that. I just know for me, I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. And that's just the way that it goes for me.
Yeah,
so.
and again, because that's, again, just being more authentic to you. So that's a great example. So that was just something we had implemented from the start that I think really set us up for a lot of success, which has been great because it was have people fall in love with the person creating the content, and then through that they'll end up loving the content to begin with. People support you because of who you are and not always just the content you put out. Now, as you get better at putting out content and stuff like that, that's just going to bring in more people, but you already have that baseline of people liking you. So it's like, like in sales, right? People aren't buying the car; they're buying the salesman.
Exactly.
Kind of deal.
If they don't trust you, if they don't like you, if they don't believe in what you're selling them, they're not going to subscribe into buying that content, right? If I, back when I sold cars, it was a huge thing. If they are not believing the things that I'm telling them, you can literally, as a salesperson, tell somebody straight up lies about something. But if you say it in a way that's believable, you're selling yourself. You're not selling the product. I don't say don't do that. Like, don't do that at all. But Grant Cardone is somebody that both me and my husband, the things he says works and, very, very good. As a content creator, people, while yes, they'll care about your content, it's more about you. They want to get behind somebody. They want to support somebody. They want to subscribe to somebody that they fit with. And so changing that up on them might not be the best thing. So, yeah.
Yep. So that was just, I want to go over more tips, but I think that just needed to be talked about mostly. Try stuff. If you don't know your brand yet, that's great. Try different things. If you already have an idea of the brand you're trying to build, just make sure you stay within the confines and whatever kind of rules you set up on that. Make sure you do that, because the second you start stepping out of bounds, your own community is going to call you out on that.
Exactly.
Not saying one is better than the other. We talk about authenticity because that's just part of our core values, and that just has worked for the Scaredy Ginge brand and Shannon herself. So, but try things, and that's not to say there can't be some sort of mix of either or, honestly,
There are people that are super, super good with being able to do both.
Yeah, I was going to say, perfect example. I bet you could do something like if I could ever get you just to play some sort of first-person shooter and you somehow went from Scaredy Ginge to, like, Mega Killing Ginge or something like that, you could put on sunglasses and just start wrecking people, or just get your butt
wrecking
kicked.
myself, really, is what it would be.
But again, that's a persona that you could fit into the type of brand that you already have currently. That is a very real thing you could do. So, not saying it's one or the other. Not saying one's better than the other, and not saying it can't not be some sort of mix, But that was those are our experiences on the kind of two basic paths of starting and building and growing. So
So, with that being said, I think that will do it for today's episode. We thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please remember to hit that like button, that subscribe button so you get notified when we upload, and also leave comments below. Let us know what you think. How has branding worked for you? Do you look forward to the series that we're going to be putting out? Also, go ahead, check out our Patreon. There is I believe a specific role in there for podcast support. And we'd love to have you in there and, to help support us. Again, the money goes towards kind of improving our quality and such, and maybe one day getting more than one microphone so Josh can have his own microphone so he doesn't have to be hunched over. So, yeah.
If you want to be technical, it's technically my microphone.
It is.
Technically.
But
I let you use it because I'm nice.
Yes. So anyway, guys, that'll do it for us today. I hope you have an incredible day. Thank you again for hanging with us. Bye, guys.